Panchakalpatarvyascha kripasinubheva patitanam pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo namo namah. So today is the holy appearance day, of Srila Narottam Das Thakur, who is one of the most important of this second generation of Vaishnavacharyas, along with Srinivas and Shamananda. And we know that Srila Prabhupada was very, very fond of all of these songs of Narottam Das Thakur. Because Prabhupada says very, very simple Bengali. Even today, if you go to the small villages of Bengal or Bangladesh, you will find the people singing these songs of Narottam just like we sing folk songs. But Prabhupada explained, even though they're so simple, all the deep truths of the Vedic literatures contain. This is the beauty of Narottam. Deep truths he's put in very, very simple Bengali language. So we're just singing this beautiful song, Ebara Karuna Koro, Vaishnava Gosai. Actual word is Goswami, but this is very affectionate term in Bengali. We say Gosai. O Vaishnav Gosai, Ebara Karuna Koro. Karuna means compassion. Just one time, just be compassionate upon me, O Vaishnav Gosai. Patita Pavana Toma Bina Keho Nai. Patit is also in Sanskrit. Patit means fallen. Patit. And Pavan means to purify. So Patita Pavana Toma Bina Ke. Like you, who is there who can purify the fallen souls? There's nice verses there. Gangara Parasha Hoile Paschati Pavan. Gangara Parasha. Parasha, this is old, simple Bengali. Actual word is sparsha. Where do we hear the word sparsha in Bhagavad Gita? Not just sparsha, the senses contacting the objects of the senses. So sparsha means to touch. So touching Ganga, this is poetic way of saying taking bath in Ganga. Gangara Parasha Hoile Paschati. Paschati means after some time. Pavan. We become Pavana. Purified. After some time. Just like today is big snan in Allahabad. Now the Magh Mela has been going on. Every 12 years there's Kumbh Mela. So Magh Mela is the final snan. So people have made sankalpa, very strong vow that we will bathe in this cold month of Magh and the cold waters of Ganga, Ganga and Jamuna, for 1 month. So every day they're bathing in those cold waters. So Paschati, after 1 month, they become purified. But about the Vaishnava, what did he say? Darshani pavitra koro eto maragun. Darshani pavitra koro eto maragun. Just by seeing a Vaishnava. Ganga takes some time. This is from first canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. The waters of the Ganga purify one gradually, but the association of Vaishnava purifies one immediately. Darshani pavitra koro. Just ek matra, just by getting darshan of Vaishnava, we become pure. And we had the practical experience in our life. One time, Srila Prabhupada came to LA from somewhere. So all the West Coast devotees came from Laguna Beach, from San Francisco, from maybe even far as San Diego, I don't know, San Francisco. And you may not be able to believe it, but in the old days before all this terrorism, we used to go right inside the airport with full kirtan party, 100 devotees with 3 mridangas and 20 kartals, and we go right inside, right up to the gate. You may not believe it now. Now, if they saw us coming, inside that mridanga, what is there, a bomb? This kartal, what is it, a deadly weapon? You can't imagine now. But those days we used to go. So there must have been at least 250 devotees, 5 mridangas, 30 kartals. We went right into LAX, right up to the gates, Everybody came to see what's going on, This huge kirtan party, bam, 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 Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. But all the devotees were jumping up and down. Nobody could see. One other person came. Nowadays, to make him feel nice, we call sanitation engineer. Means the mopper. Now you don't have to have a university degree to mop the floor. And this guy, he was so black. He made the nighttime look like daytime. So you can understand, very simple fellow. He also came. He was leaning on his mop and trying to see what was going on. But the boys were jumping. Prabhupada came out, boom, everybody hit the ground. Then he saw. Now, some of you may be very proud of your English, but this is a type of English you may not be able to understand. Look that man, he's shining. He's shining. Look that man, he's shining. He's shining. Look that man, he's shining. Anybody understood? Look at that man, he's shining. He's shining. Look at that man, he's shining. Look that man, he's shining. He's shining. A simple little guy, but just by seeing Prabhupada, he became so purified, he was seeing that Prabhupada was shining. We all have that, who were there, we had that experience that Prabhupada just looked like he was shining. So today we're going to discuss about the appearance of Srila Narottam Das Thakur. All these appearance days are on our calendar. And we should know something. It's not just that we just see the Vaishnava, appearance day of Narottam Das. We should know something. So in what is now Bangladesh, there was a village called Khetri. And there was a great king there named Raja Krishna Chandra. And he had very chaste wife, Padmavati. And on this Magh Purnima day, many hundreds of years ago, he got a very, very beautiful son. It was very golden in complexion. And all the beautiful long arms, lotus petal eyes, all the lakshanas, all the signs of a great personality were there. And whole of Khetri was very happy. Because now Raja Krishna Chandra, he had an heir to the throne. Kings are very anxious to get a son to give the kingdom over to their sons. So everybody in Khetri was very, very joyful. And Maharaj distributed so much things in charity to all the Brahmins, and there was big celebration. And gradually he began to grow, and everyone saw that he was so beautiful. Finally, his Annaprashan came, the first feeding of grains to the child. Jai Sisi Gorni Thai Radha Giridhari Sri Jagannath Baladev Subhadra Maharani. But whenever they tried to feed him the grains, he would just turn his face. Everyone was upset. Then there was one Vaishnava there. He understood. He brought some Mahaprasad. They were trying to offer him boga grains. So he wouldn't take. But when that Vaishnava offered him Mahaprasad, oh, he gobbled it down with great relish. Everybody can understand, this is not ordinary child. And he excelled when he entered school, finally entered school, he excelled in his studies. But he wasn't like other children who like to play and sport and uselessly waste their time. He loved to hear from the Vaishnavas, especially about Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Eventually there came to Khetri one Vaishnava named Krishnadas. And he would sit in the king's temple room and he would chant the beginning, middle, and ending leelas of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And Narottam, instead of playing and fooling around, he used to just relish hearing the pastimes of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And he decided that he was going to uh, uh, give his heart and soul to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Actually, we should go back many years before this, all these things happened, because Narottam is such a special devotee that Mahaprabhu twice mentions him, even before he appeared. One time, Mahaprabhu was supposedly going to Vrindavan, but he went north to Bengal instead of west to Vrindavan. So, and along the way, we know he saved Rupa and Sanatan. And then eventually he came to Kanai Natshala on the bank of the Padma River. And he took all the devotees to the banks of the river and he began to chant ecstatic Harinam. All the devotees were dancing and chanting and crying. And suddenly in the middle of the kirtan, Mahaprabhu began to shout uncontrollably, Narottam, 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 Narottam. Everyone was astonished. Lord Nityananda, he couldn't believe his eyes. He'd never seen Mahaprabhu sing like this. So after the kirtan, Nityananda, he asked Mahaprabhu, why were you singing like that? He says, you see, on the other side of this river in Ketari Gram, my great devotee, Narottama, will appear. Uttama. Uttama means, tama. Tama means ignorance. Uttama, above ignorance. Transcendental. The best. Uttama. Best of the Vaishnavas will appear, Narottama. So until that time that he comes, I'm going to deposit my Gauranga Prem within the waters of this Padma River to deliver to Narottam at the appropriate time. So he took all the devotees down to the bank of the Padma River, and Mahaprabhu entered into the waters. And suddenly, just like hair standing on end, all these little waves appeared on the surface of the Padma River. Just like her hairs were standing on end, she began to overflow her banks. Suddenly, the Padma River personified appeared and bowed before Lord Chaitanya. It says, what service do you have for me, my Lord? He said, I am depositing my Gauranga Prem in your waters. And when due course of time, when Narottam comes to bathe here, the appropriate time, you will deliver that Gauranga Prem to him. And she immediately merged back in, took her watery form. First she asked, how will I understand that Narottam has come? So when Narottam enters your water and you like hair standing on it, so many waves appear and you overflow your banks, that is Narottam. And he turned to Lord Nityananda and he said, you will be instrumental in bringing him here. She assumed her watery form again and merged back into the Padma River. Another time, Mahaprabhu, he told Lokanath to go to Vrindavan. He said, in the future, my great devotee, Narottama, he will come. And you must deliver, you must initiate Narottama. Then he sent him to Vrindavan. So twice, even before he appeared, Mahaprabhu was mentioned that he is my great devotee, Narottama. So Narottam, he decided to surrender his life and soul to the lotus feet of Sri Chaitanya. And he used to have deities of Krishna and Balaram, and he had worshipped them. with great love and affection. Sometimes he even clasps them to his chest and go to sleep at night. One time he had a dream. In his dream, his deities of Krishna Balaram were dancing and singing, and suddenly before his eyes they turned into Gornitai. And all his associates, all their associates were there. They were just dancing in ecstatic love, And Mahaprabhu and Narada was just amazed. Then Nityananda came to him in the dream and said, in the morning, you must go and take your bath in the Padma River. Because Lord Chaitanya had told Nityananda that you will bring him to the Ghats. So in his dream, he instructed him to go. So in the morning, Narada woke up and remembering his dream, he was just totally astounded. His hairs were standing on end. He went down to the bank of the river early in the morning before anyone in the palace had awoken. And that ghat is still there, Prem Tali Ghat. And Narada enters the waters of the Padma. And then all her water began to overflow, and little waves like her hair standing on end appeared. Then she understood this is Narada. And she delivered that Gauranga Prem to Narada. And Narada felt himself as if he was being engulfed by a golden deity who merged with his body. And it was very interesting because his body was somewhat blackish. But once that he had received this Gauranga Prem, he became very golden. And he was just dancing and singing on the bank of the Padma. Ha ha Gauranga, ha ha Nityananda, ha ha Swarup, ha ha Rupa, ha ha Sanatana. He was just dancing in madland, like a mad boy. When the king woke and found that Narada was not in his room, he sent everyone everywhere to find Narada. Where's my Naru? Where's my Naru? Where's my Naru? Finally, on the banks of the Padma, they saw this golden boy dancing. They thought, it looks like Narada, but his blackish color is gone. He's golden. Who is this? And they brought him back to the palace, and the king embraced him and says, oh, my Naru, what has happened to you? And he thought that he must have some type of disease of the air. So he called some doctor. The doctor came and said, oh, it's just a slight dislocation of the airs in his body. You must kill a fox and make a soup and feed it to him. And Narottam said, it is against the scriptures to kill animals. This is cruelty. You will get great sin by doing this, and it will not cure my disease, it will make it worse. So everybody was shocked, And Narottam went into the room and just began chanting and dancing into the temple room and dancing and chanting. Now Raja Krishna Chandra became very worried. He may run off to join Lord Chaitanya. And for a king to have no heir, this is the most horrible thing. So he put guards all around the temple room and to watch Narottam at every moment. And gradually his fame began to spread throughout the land, that there's this God-intoxicated boy, there was the son of Krishna Chandra. So at that time, Bengal was under Muslim rule, so there was one governor, he was called Jai Girdhar. He also heard, even he was a Muslim, he thought, this is this God-intoxicated person is there in Ketarigram. So he ordered Krishna Chandra, you bring your son to my court. I want to have his darshan. Now, he couldn't refuse the governor, but it may be a chance for Narottam to escape. So he told the guards to keep very careful watch on him. So somehow on the way, the guards were inattentive and Narottam ran into the forest. and he immediately started towards Vrindavan. But not on the main road. He knew that his father will send all his soldiers to find him. So he took the hither and thither roads, the back roads. And without eating anything, he walked for several days and finally reached Jharkhand, where he collapsed from exhaustion. In his dream, in his unconscious state, a golden hued Brahmin came and offered him some milk. He had never tasted milk like this. He said, drink deep of this milk. All your fatigue of the journey will be vanquished. He woke up, and sure enough, some person came and offered him milk, and he drank it. All the fatigue was gone away. And he got up with renewed energy to continue his journey. Meanwhile, the king's men, they caught him. And they wanted to take him home. And he said, look, I'm going into the fire of Krishna consciousness. I have given myself to my Lord, and I'm totally enamored by him, so I'm entering into the fire of Krishna consciousness. It is natural, just like a woman, she wants to enter into the fire when her husband dies. The relatives will try to stop her, but she would be less than chaste if she did not enter the fire with her husband. So the same way, I would be less than chaste if I did not enter the fire of God consciousness. And the guards began to cry. They even gave him money for his trip and sent him on his way. And finally, he reached Vrindavan. He reached first to Mathura and then finally Vrindavan. He came to the Radha Govinda temple. And seeing the beautiful deity of Govinda, he completely collapsed. And Jiva Goswami, he had some premonition that Narottam is coming. So when the custodians of the Radha Govinda temple came, said some young boy has come and collapsed in the temple, he immediately came there. And he saw this beautiful golden hued boy fallen on the floor. He said, this is Narottam. And then he revived Narottam and took him to his ashram and introduced him to all the Vaishnavas, especially introduced him to Lokanath. And he's immediately attracted. Lokanath was totally renounced and he was just absorbed in separation from Gauranga Mahaprabhu. Mahaprabhu had already left this world. And he decided right then and there, I'm going to make this person my spiritual master. And he began to study under Jiva Goswami, but he was especially attracted to Lokanath. And he kept going to Lokanath and begging for some service, but Lokanath was so humble. He never accepted service from anyone. And he fell before Lokanath. He said, I've accepted you as my Lord and Master. You must initiate me. And Lokanath, although he had the order from Mahaprabhu, he said, no, I'm too fallen. I cannot initiate anyone. He refused to initiate, refused to give him any service. So Narottam began to watch his activities from the field, from the bushes. He saw that every day he went to a certain place to evacuate and perform his morning duties. So Narottam got a pail and a bucket, and he would hide. And when Lokanath was finished, he would come there with his pail of water and wash the place and sweep it, make it nice and clean. After a couple of days of this going on, Lokanath noticed, well, why is this place always clean when I come here? Some villager doing something. But almost a year had passed, and he said, this is still going on. What's happening here? He got curious. So Lokanath hid in the bushes. And sure enough, here came Narottam with his pail of water and a bucket and began to clean. And Lokanath jumped out and said, what are you doing? He said, I have accepted you as my master. I have to do some service. You won't give me any service. So I found this service. So Lokanath's heart was conquered. All right, what can I say? So he invited him to his ashram. Still, he refused to initiate him. Finally, one day he was sitting with Lokanath. At that time, there was no temples. Everything was very simple jungle. Jamuna was flowing by, it was all jungle. Mm. There was no Hira jewelers to make nice golden crowns and things like that for the deities and jewelry. Or Ashok, the tailor, wasn't there to make nice dresses. So Lokanath, just by his meditation, he would dress his deities, put beautiful crowns and so many things. One time in his meditation, all in meditation, nothing you could see, he put this beautiful chhatri, just like we have over the deities. He put a beautiful chhatri over his Radha Vinod Lal. And then he made, in his meditation, he made this beautiful crown, but it was too big to fit under the umbrella. So Narottam leaned over and tipped the umbrella up like this. And Lokanath looked at him because it was all just his meditation, his own personal meditation. And he looked at Narottam, then he put the crown. And he said, all right, you go to the Jamuna, take bath, come back here, I will initiate you. So then he initiated Narottam. And still he studied, he sent him to study with Jiva Goswami. Gradually Shamananda appeared and Srinivasacharya appeared. They all became great friends. And Narottam sometimes in his meditation, he was making boiling milk. The Sakis gave him the duty of boiling milk to make the sweets. And one time the milk was boiling over and he tried to, with his bare hands, he was trying to keep it from boiling over like that. His hands became scorched. And when he came out of his meditation, he saw those scorched hands had returned to him to the material world. And he tried to hide his hands from all the Vaishnavas. But I guess with Jiva Goswami grabbed him and pulled his hand out. He said, what is this? So he told him, he says, yes, this is your eternal service. Boiling the milk for Radha and Krishna sweets. And it was confirmed that meditation was correct. Then one day, Jiva Goswami was thinking, because Goswamis were all writing so many books about explaining the deep philosophy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and nobody in Bengal was understanding what was going on. They had faith in Lord Chaitanya, but they didn't have so much faith in Radha Krishna. So he told just like we do nowadays, we take an old van and we rip out all the seats and we build a platform and we put all the books underneath, and we go out distributing books from town to town. So this was the first traveling Sankirtan party. So those who are going on traveling Sankirtan, they're following in the footsteps of the Goswamis and Narottam Das Thakur. So they put all so they had of course they didn't have vans then, they had these bullock carts. And he made a stretch. He got some merchants from Mathura to build a very nice Sankirtan van, bullock cart, and they stored the books inside very safely. He said, now you must go to Bengal and distribute this knowledge to the devotees. So they traveled all the way across northern India. They reached to a place called Banu Vishnupur. And there was a king named Bir Hambir. Bir already means, strong, powerful, But he was not only Bir, Hambir. I'm strong and strong. That was his name. And he was the leader of a bunch of dacoits. And he sent them around to plunder the people on the roads, So one day his astrologer told him that there's some sadhus coming and they have immeasurable treasure, priceless treasure they're carrying. And so he sent his dacoits. And somehow, as per usual, the guards fell asleep. Because this is a constitutional position of the chokidar. And they robbed the books. We can't imagine the distress of the three acharyas when they woke up and found the books were gone. All the original books of the Goswamis were gone. we can't imagine the distress in their hearts. Hmm? They began looking around, but they couldn't find anything. So then Srinivas told, I will try to find them. He told Narottam, you go to Khetri, and he told Shamanand, I forget which place, Gopi Balapur, I think, you go there. I will stay here. So somehow or other, Srinivas, he managed to find out the books, and the king was just crying and crying that I committed a great offense, and Srinivas blessed him and gave him the name Chaitanya Das, initiated him, gave him the name Chaitanya Das. If you know where to look when you go to the Samadhis in Radha Damodar Mandir, there's one little, not very flashy, looks like a little mound on the mound there. And there's a little tiny mound beside. That's Birhambir and his queen. That's their Samadhi, or at least Pushpa Samadhi there in Radha Damodar Mandir. So finally, Narottam set off, but first he decided to go to Mayapur and see all the places of Lord Chaitanya. So he wandered around Mayapur, he went to Puri, he met all the devotees who were still living, they all blessed him. Everywhere he went, he got blessings of the Vaishnavas. And finally, he went to Srinivasacharya's place. He had a special relation with Srinivasacharya. And then he finally arrived in Khetri. And everyone got word that Narottam was coming. And by this time, Raja Krishna Chandra and his queen, they had already entered into the eternal pastimes of the Lord. And his cousin brother, because there's one Purushottam, his brother, Krishna Chandra's brother, he had a son named Santosh. So Santosh had become the king. He ran out before everyone to meet Narottam. And when Narottam finally came, they embraced him like anything. They brought him into the village. It was a big festival. It's like the people had been unconscious and now their consciousness returned. Everyone was joyful. But he refused to live in the palace. He kept himself separate. And he got a letter from, those days there wasn't WhatsApp and email and messenger, but he somehow got a letter by hand, hand delivered across northern India from Lokanath, that you must teach deity worship is very important for the households. You must teach them deity worship. So he decided to get some deities. And then he consulted with Srinivas, and they decided, actually, till this time, nobody was doing Gaur Purnima festival, the appearance of Mahaprabhu. So he performed this was the first Gaur Purnima festival. And Santosh, he had already initiated Santosh, and Santosh said, whatever wealth I have in the kingdom is at your disposal. You make a big festival. And they built, go downs for to keep all the grains and vegetables and rice and everything for the festival. And he built cute, beautiful residences for all the Vaishnavas. And with Sanskrit poets, they sent invitations to all the Vaishnavas, including Janavama and all the great Vaishnavas of the time. And everybody started going to Khetri. And on the way, everyone heard about the festival. It began to swell. Yes, you please come. So like an ocean was coming there to Khetri. But still, he made more and more residences for all the Vaishnavas. And when the Vaishnavas came to the bank of the Padmavati, there was so many boats to take them across. And when they arrived on the other side, they're immediately given garlands and put chandan on their foreheads. We read about all of these things. We think, oh, that time is possible, not now. But I remember we were celebrating the 30th anniversary of the installation of Radha Ras Bihari in Bombay. And every train station, there were so many Vaishnavas and so many vehicles waiting to receive us. We got garlands. They took us in the vans to wherever we were going to stay, gave us a nice place to stay, like that. Just like Mahaprabhu's time. It's still possible nowadays. And we saw we got garlands and nice place to stay and nice prasadam. And Narottam was collecting, he collected 6 different deities. Uh, uh, in fact, there was one Brahmin in the next town named Bipradas. He was exceedingly wealthy, but he became destitute because there was a very ferocious snake living in his go-down of rice. He couldn't sell his rice. He had no money. He was very destitute. And Narottam went to pay him a visit. And he heard about the snake. He said, no problem. And he said, no, don't go, don't go. And Narottam just walked. He opened the door of the go-down. This huge black snake came out and was never seen again. And Narottam entered the go-down, and from amongst the rice, he pulled out this beautiful deity of Gaur Vishnupriya. Gauranga and Vishnupriya. So, and he brought them back. Meanwhile, he had some other deities made, just like in Brindikund in the Rajbhog Artik, we always sing this one beautiful song mentioning all the deities. Gauranga Balavi Kanta, Sri Krishna Brajamohanam, Radharmani Radhe Radhakanta Namosate. So there was Gauranga, Balavi Kanta, Sri Krishna, Brajamohan, and Radharman, and Radhakanta. These were all the 6 deities to be installed. And Santosh Datta had made a huge hall, huge temple for their installation. And Srinivasacharya came, he was going to be the priest. And all the Vaishnavas came. And this was very special what Narottam was doing. He had a deity of Gauranga and Vishnupriya, along with all these Radha Krishna deities. Because in Vrindavan, all the Goswamis were writing, Radha Krishna. In Bengal, they were all saying, Lord Chaitanya, he's the supreme, he's the supreme. So Narottam was trying to bring all the people together. Just like we need someone like Narottam nowadays. Everyone is fighting this, that. But we need someone who could bring all the Vaishnavas together. Because this Khetri Gram Festival is the most amazing thing in the history of Gaudiya Vaishnavism. Because all the acharyas came, so they had their GBC meeting with Mahajanava as the head GBC chairperson. And they discussed and they worked out all because there was Gauranga Paramavad and Advaita Paramavad, and as everyone was saying that, Advaita is the supreme, Gauranga is the supreme. And gradually, with Mahajanava heading, all their differences. This was the most important event in Vaishnava history. All their differences were resolved, and he brought both of them together. And by having Gauranga and Vishnupriya together, he brought the both camps, the Radha Krishna camp and the Gauranga camp. He brought them both together. This was Narottam's genius. Most important festival. And the most amazing festival ensued for 3 days. The first day, they did the Adivas with separate special celebrations before the deities are installed. And finally, on the day of Mahaprabhu's appearance came, and these beautiful deities appeared there, and they did the Abhishek. And all the Vaishnavas were just so much in ecstasy, and they saw these beautiful deities, and they offered a beautiful feast to all the deities, and finally, at the end of the festival, Mahajanava, she took a pail of color and she sprinkled some color on the devotees, on the deities, and then she turned, and she didn't have to say anything. All the devotees grabbed this red color and began to throw red color on each other. Because now it's become hooliganism, but we can see it was initiated by a woman. It was Mahajanava who started this Holi festival, because Gurpurnima is also the day of Holi. So they were throwing colors. And finally, in the evening, Narottam sat down to have kirtan. The kirtan was always going on, but he did a special kirtan. And sometimes you read one biography and they tell something, somebody tells another thing, but every single biography tells the same thing about this Narottam's kirtan. Because he had a vision and he had a dream that Mahaprabhu was going to come. So he led this kirtan till the devotees were jumping and practically jumping out of their skins and rolling. And finally, at the height of the kirtan, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu appeared. All biographers tell the same thing. Lord Nityananda appeared. Advaita Prabhu, all those associates who had disappeared from this world, they appeared in the height of the kirtan. The devotees were pulling their hair out, ripping their cloth, they were rolling on the ground in ecstasy. They were all swooning and begging, oh, they fell at Narottam's feet. You brought our lords before us. We can't imagine. What did Achyutananda and the sons of Advaita think when they saw Advaitacharya dancing like a youth? What did Majanava think when she saw her husband Nityananda dancing in ecstasy? We can't imagine this ecstatic moment in Narottam. He just brought the kirtan to higher and higher heights. And then finally the visions disappeared and all the Vaishnavas took rest. The next day, Mahajanava personally went to the kitchen and began to cook. And she cooked so many wonderful preparations. And they offered them before the deities. Then Santosh, the king, he invited all the Vaishnavas to the huge prasadam hall. And Mahajanava herself, we think that the new bhaktas should distribute prasadam. That's for the new bhaktas. No, prasad distribution is a very powerful part of our philosophy. It's that elder devotees should distribute with love to all the Vaishnavas. So Mahajanava, she was distributing by her own hand to all the Vaishnavas. And finally, she herself sat down and the Vaishnavas served her. They had this wonderful feast and more kirtan. And then somehow everybody left Keturi. Always remembering this unforgettable experience that happened in Keturi Gram. So many, we're running out of time, but so many wonderful pastimes in Narottam is there. As he began to initiate many people, including Brahmins, because somehow or other, Radhakrishna Chandra was a Kayasta, which is a type of Vaishnava. But at that time in Bengal, he was considered to be a Shudra. Now I can understand Varnashram a little bit. The caste system I'll never figure it out. He's a king, he must be a Kshatriya, right? But he was a Kayasta, was supposed to be a Vaishnava, but he was considered at that time to be a Sudra. You go figure. So the Smarta Brahmins became very upset that this guy's a Sudra. He's initiating Brahmins. Our religion will be ruined. And one time, Narottam and Srinivas, they were bathing in the Padmavati, and they saw these two beautiful young boys herding some goats and sheep. And they were the sons of Shivananda Acharya, a great tantric and worshipper of Durga. So the boys were attracted by the beautiful features of Narottam and Srinivas, and they came close. And Narottam and Srinivas inquired from them, and they were saying they were going to Durga Pujas going on, and we're bringing these sheep and goats to be slaughtered in the puja. And Narottam and Srinivas, they couldn't bear that these beautiful young Brahmin boys were being spoiled. And so they began to preach to them. And the boys fell at the feet of Narottam and Srinivas and immediately released all the sheep and goats and stayed and entered into Narottam's ashram. And they stayed there. And one was initiated by Srinivas as Harinama, and the other was initiated by Narottam as, what was his name? I can't remember just now, just slipped my mind. Senior moment. Anyway, they initiated them and they began to stay there with Narottam, learning all the books of the Goswamis. Finally, Narottam sent them to his home because Shivananda had sent his people everywhere, and he heard uh, that they were with Narottam and Ketarigram. And his men came there, and they dragged the boys away to their home, but they were shaved up with tilak on 12 parts of their body and always chanting the name of Krishna. And his father was furious. Why are you chanting this Krishna? Don't you know Durga is the supreme? We'll all be ruined. And who is this Narottam that he will destroy our religion? If the position of the Brahmins is not upheld, then we'll be ruined. And if the Brahmins are ruined, then the people will go to hell. And they immediately defeated all the arguments. He brought all of his pundits, and the boys defeated all their arguments that a Vaishnava is greater than everyone. And that night, Durga appeared to him in a dream and said, I will cut you to pieces unless you go and surrender to Narottam and beg forgiveness for all these offenses. And so he went there and fell at the feet of Narottam, and Narottam with great affection. He wasn't, like nowadays, if we defeat someone, you're useless. With great affection, he embraced them and initiated them as Vaishnavas. But still, this became a big point. One time, all the Brahmins, they went to the Raja Narasingha, nearby kingdom, and they were complaining to him that they're ruining our Vaishnava, they're ruining our Hindu religion. They're initiating Brahmins, they're Sudras, this and that. So the king said, what we want you to do? He said, you take Rup Narayan, your Mahapandit, and we will go there and defeat this guy and give him his due punishment. So the king wrote a letter to Narottam that why are you doing this irreligious thing? And Narottam wrote a letter back defeating all the king's arguments. And the king was convinced, but these were his pandits. He couldn't go against them, So they all started off. So the king decided personally to go along. So they went along. Then everyone got news that Raja Narasingha is coming with Rup Narayan, and then a whole party of pandits. So Ramachandra, because we're always hearing about Ramchandra Kaviraj, because Narottam has written, that Ramachandra Sangamangi Narottam. So Ramachandra and Ganga Narayan Chakravarti is also a Brahmin. They went, and on the edge of, and once Kumarpura, one little village on the edge of Ketarigram, they set up a pot shop because they will need clay pots to cook and so many things. And they'll need pan and betel nuts for their puja. So they set up the potter and the pan seller. So they camped nearby and they went in to buy their supplies. And suddenly the pot seller was speaking to them in pure Sanskrit. So the pandits also began to reply to them in Sanskrit. And eventually they began to argue. And eventually he defeated all their points. And they were shocked. And they went to the pan seller. He was also speaking Sanskrit. And he defeated all their points. So then they brought Rup Narayan. And Rup Narayan was defeated. And the king said, even a simple pan seller and a potter in the Narottam's village can defeat you. What will happen when you face Narottam? And so finally, Rup Narayan, he surrendered at the lotus feet of Narottam. So these are some of the wonderful pastimes of his appearance days. We won't discuss about disappearance. That's a very amazing pastime also, but we'll put our voice to rest here with these wonderful pastimes of Narottam Das Thakur. Narottam Das Thakur ki jai. Hare Krishna. Is there any questions or comments? No questions, and we can fall down at the very soft and wonderful lotus feet of that great personality who used to love to chant the songs of Narottam Das Thakur. To the Prabhupada ki jai. Srila Narottam Das Thakur ki.